Joining us now is Christian Schneider, columnist for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, who was one of those reporters in that room talking to Paul Ryan today, as well as Charlie Sykes, radio host on WTMJ AM in Milwaukee and editor-in-chief of Right Wisconsin, a leader of the Never Trump movement, as well as David Corn from Mother Jones, an MSNBC political analyst. Hello, everyone. Christian, what did you pick up from Paul Ryan in that room talking about Trump today?
Well, yeah, so Paul Ryan is now the leader of the Republican wing of the Republican Party. So I thought it was a little odd if he were at a convention where he didn't support Donald Trump as the nominee for him to be chairing it. So I asked him, obviously, if he would continue to do so. He said, you know, it's Trump's party, the convention. If he wants to do, I'll do whatever he wants me to do. And so that's kind of where we got there. It was almost kind of...
Did he seem genuine? Did he seem to feel that way, or have been brought around to that position by pressure?
It was almost one of these, like, almost inviting Trump to disinvite him type of thing. You know, I've heard more magnanimous ways of putting it, saying, you know, now Ryan knows Trump is in charge of the party or whatever. But no, I think Ryan probably wants nothing to do with it. And at this point, he's, you know, he's just trying to get away from Pepe Le Pew at this point.
Yeah, I've heard Pepe Le Pew, I've heard the Briar Patch, David Corn. There's a lot of ways that Paul Ryan might be doing himself a favor, and yet there is something, I just want to be clear and in a sense fair to the nominee, there is something unusual going on in his position, even though what he's asking Trump to do is not unusual. Take a listen to Ryan as well today talking about what it takes to unite Republicans.
For all kinds of conservatives, for all the different wings of the conservative movement, there are some bedrock principles that really matter to us. And that's what you must unify around, in my opinion, so that we can have the kind of campaign we need to have going forward. It's important to understand that there are a lot of conservatives who felt alienated in the process or who are not there right now. And if we're going to win in this fall, we've got to unify all wings of the party.
So, David, if you take Paul Ryan at his word, one way to do that would be to give some nominal support to the nominee and then work on the uniting rather than bucking someone who just beat 16 people and got the plurality.
Well, I don't take him at his word, and I don't mean that in bad faith, but this issue of unifying with Donald Trump is something that I don't think any reasonable, rational Republican can find a path forward on. I mean, that means unifying with a man who says we should keep Muslims out of this country, who attacks the other candidate, likely candidate in general election, Hillary Clinton, for basically being a woman, who wants to build this wall, who has called Mexican immigrants rapists, and who doesn't understand what the nuclear triad is, and who has registered more Pinocchios for lying than any other candidate running this year. I mean, unity is not an option for anybody who has a degree of faith or pride or any belief in electing somebody who is not a maniac.
Charlie, let me bring in...
Sykes can get into this.
Charlie Sykes, how about that?
That's the problem the Republicans have. It's not about finding a compromised position. It's about how to deal with Donald Trump.
Charlie?
Well, yeah. I mean, before you get on the Trump train, you ought to check what's in the baggage car, because you're getting all of that. And, you know, what I find really remarkable about this is that, you know, considering how extraordinary the hostile takeover of the Republican Party was, that apparently the Trump supporters believe that conservatives, leaders of the party like Paul Ryan, should simply capitulate, should simply surrender without even asking questions, without even having a conversation about some of those things that David Corn was just mentioning. Because it's not just right-left conservative issues. It's what are you getting with Donald Trump? Is he going to change his tone? And what I think we've seen in the last week is the fact that this is a man who is not prepared to make a pivot. He is not becoming more presidential. He's not being gracious. He certainly could have said at some point, hey, I know this was a tough primary. I know that it is my job to reach out and to begin to persuade people, you know, on the conservative wing of the party. I'm more than happy to do that. Instead, what have they done? They've unleashed the flying monkeys, you know, the Pat Buchanans and the Sarah Palins. I mean, think where we're at here in the age of Trump, that you have Sarah Palin being one of the arbiters of what is rational conservative discourse in America today.
Well, and Charlie, he doesn't seem, people talk so much about the pivot. The primary may be like The Godfather, where you have to knock everyone out, and it's a zero-sum game. That's not the general. You have to do addition.
Right.
In your view as a Trump critic, does he even get that?
No, I mean, I think that what you saw in the last week was that he's not interested in unifying the party, and that maybe he is constitutionally incapable of unifying the party. He is incapable of doing that kind of outreach or of changing his approach to his critics and people that he's going to need in this election. Look, it's a matter of mathematics. If you do not have addition to, given where he's at on some of these demographic groups, if you are not able to add in the main constituencies of the Republican Party, there's no way he can win. He's got to know that.
Right.
But perhaps the man just lacks the self-control to be able to do what needs to be done at this point in the campaign.
So, Christian, as a Paul Ryan watcher, is this a prelude to some sort of kumbaya deal, or do you see Paul Ryan going into November with this distance from Trump?
Paul Ryan is a bedrock conservative and has been his entire life. So I don't think you're going to see a meeting on Thursday, where they sit down and eat a sandwich and suddenly, Paul Ryan is on board with Donald Trump, unless Trump is some kind of, hypnotist. On the other side, I don't see Trump changing his behavior to the point where Paul Ryan could actually end up supporting him. So maybe there's something here or there maybe they can agree on. But Paul Ryan's really trying to give cover to his members in the House of Representatives, some of those people that say, look, we can't go stand on a stage with Donald Trump. He's too embarrassing. Everything he says is going to come back to us. We're going to get asked to respond to every intemperate comment he makes, and so he's given cover to those of his members down the ballot.
So, David, I want you to speak to the counter argument to all this, which was surfaced by, among others, Rachel Maddow earlier tonight. That yes, we can find these examples, and Paul Ryan is a biggie. But there is, in her argument, a heck of a lot more prominent Republicans who are coming around to Trump. She shows polling showing already 80% plus Republicans preferring him, and people like the former Texas governor, Rick Perry, and others who had sworn up and down Trump was terrible, now rushing to endorse him. What about the idea that a lot more Republicans ultimately get on this train?
Well, there was a Utah congressman, Republican, who previously called Trump our Mussolini, his words, not mine, and he's now endorsed Trump. I think there are a lot of people in the Republican Party, from the top to the bottom, who may be opportunists or may hate Hillary Clinton so much that they are going to go along for Trump regardless of what they really believe. I think this is a moment of truth for many Republicans. Do you take a guy like Donald Trump, and I don't believe in any pivoting. We've watched him for over a year as a presidential candidate. We've watched him for years before that. They know who and what he is. He's not going to change. And so the moment of truth is, do you accept this as a president regardless of ideology or issues?
Well, and his positions may change. His temperament and his approach and his style of leadership does not change. We've seen that. Yeah, exactly. David Corn and Christian Schneider, thank you both for joining us. Charlie Sykes stays with us. We'll see you later in the show.